I think there's a sweet combination of those types of things where you're bringing relevancy, you're bringing your strong opinion and like what you do, what you know, your expertise, trends, and also like evergreen forms of content. I think that's where a channel really thrives for longevity and not just trends.
How big can someone truly expect to get if they are trying to build on trends, on these fads, right? So they, like, say the ChatGPT trend on YouTube right now, any you put ChatGPT into a headline of your video, you're gonna get some views. So how do they even last?
So, what I would say to that is I think that there's a little bit more risk if you put too many trends on your channel. So, the reason I say that is because there's no evergreenness to the video topics, right? So, like a video topic about how to save your marriage from divorce versus, you know, Carol G and the bank's failing, SBB Bank and all these things. Like it's a trend and it goes up really fast, yes, but it also goes down really fast and it isn't searched anymore. So I think there's a sweet combination of evergreen that people are going to be looking up forever, trends, capitalizing on trends, and also putting things that are controversial out there. Because I used to be scared of this personally, where I would feel a strong way about whatever. I would say, like, short form content. Like, short form content will not get you leads. Like if I made a video on that, it's controversial because there's millions of people who think otherwise, right? It's intriguing. Like, oh, they won't get lead. Like, well, what does? Like, what does she suggest? And so I think there's a sweet combination of those types of things where you're bringing relevancy, you're bringing your strong opinion and like what you do, what you know, your expertise, trends, and also like evergreen forms of content. I think that's where a channel really thrives for longevity and not just trends.
Yo, it's Igor. I want you to have my Amazon best-selling book for free for taking the time to listen to my podcast and to watch my YouTube videos. Now, I'm not only going to give you this book for free, but I'm going to throw in about $3.2 thousand in free bonuses. Now, if you want to get this book, please click the link in the description, or you can also go to igorsbook.com. And now, back to the podcast.
Interesting. So is it important to keep your channel within a certain scope of topics, or is it okay to have a channel that talks to different, because like say Joe Rogan or Friedman, these guys talk about all sorts of stuff. There's no one thing that they're famous for. Joe Rogan will literally have like an historian today, a scientist tomorrow, a movie star the next day, a UFC fighter the next day, then a pickup artist, then a stand-up artist, and then somebody like he just found on the street in Texas. Like it's so diverse, and yeah, these are super famous YouTube channels and YouTube influencers.
No, that's a great question that I've been wondering since day one as well. But I think my strategy. Okay, so I want to actually relaunch my original channel, Marissa Romero, into a no niche channel. And I've never really said this publicly on any, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud on the internet. I want to relaunch it and I want to make it like have like a, you know how magazines have like a feel when you open a magazine? That's kind of how I
Mm.
want to make my channel. Like Joe Rogan has a feel, all of these big channels that don't have a particular niche, it's like a vibe. You go there, you're like, oh, okay. And I think now with all my experience, I can have a successful channel like that. But basically, the idea is the channel is going to be something along the line of like an online journal of a high achiever. So I'm going to touch on things that have to do with business, motherhood, travel, whatever I want. But the whole foundation of it is that high achievers, if you're a high achiever, you would like my content. So there's that strategy. If you're starting a brand new channel that way, you have to know what you're doing. You just have to, because you have to know, you have to be able to, I think, deliver great content on each of these topics, but also like you just have to, you have to have YouTube experience. And so as far as like how other people have grown, like the really big people that post about whatever, I think it's a combination of that. They're just really good creators. Also, it's a combination of luck. Literally, there's just some YouTube channels that get luckier than others, and we cannot figure out why, right? And that's like the good, that has some narrative of like comparison. Like that's a big killer of people stopping, is just comparing upward. Like, oh my gosh, so and so got 50K subscribers. They're only 3 months old. I'm posting consistently this, and this. Like I'm crossing off all the check marks and best practices. Why don't I have 50K yet? It's honestly, that's just the algorithm. And so
It's funny. You get that question about YouTube. I get that question about having an email list.
mhm.
I can go and I can crush it with a list much smaller than some of the people I compete with at affiliate competitions. But then, a student of mine will be building a list and they'll get to my size and they're like, how come you're making all this money and I'm not? And, I can pinpoint to a few principles they're not following. But oftentimes I'm left wondering. There's some things that are just escaping me, some things that are invisible to the eye. It's not always a science, it's not always an exact science. Right now with YouTube, of course, it's a little bit different, although it is similar, because you've got the algorithm. And we don't know what the secret recipe of the algorithm is. We don't know why would it push this and not that. We don't always know. Most of the time we don't know. Sometimes we can guesstimate, but let's face it, we don't have a manual. And in the same way, email deliverability, or why would a list respond to this person mailing this offer but not that person mailing the offer? It is, there's still lots of unknowns when it comes to marketing stuff on the internet. It's not an exact science like the laws of physics that are a lot more predictable than what we do. There is a certain element of luck. There is an element of art. There is an element of timing. Because if you were in the first wave of YouTube influencers, it was easier to rank than today, right? It wasn't as difficult. Yes, there weren't as many tools like TubeBuddy back then, but guess what? You didn't need the tools because ranking was as simple as uploading virtually any video of any quality, and just getting your title correctly. Same with SEO. SEO game today versus SEO 20 years ago, 10 years ago, completely different game. Yes, do we know what are the big strokes that we need? Content, yes. Backlinks, sure. Website laid out a certain way, yes. The code has to be clean, yes. Has to load fast, yes. But there's absolutely no guarantee that we're going to rank. And so it's one of those risks that we have to take as entrepreneurs online, to know that we don't have control over every aspect of it. But what would you say then, if we were to turn this conversation to be a little bit more optimistic? What would you say are the commonalities for the channels that you've seen that are successful or semi-successful? Your own channel that grew, which I understand there could be part of it is luck, part of it wasn't under, entirely under your control, but you still contributed to that. So what would you say are some of the things that are like quote unquote best practices for people who want to start a YouTube channel or grow a YouTube channel?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is just being resilient. YouTube is going to test you the most out of any other traffic source you're trying to build. You are going to face haters. You're going to face slow growth. You're going to face um, all kinds of things. We didn't go over this, but my channel was hacked and deleted, and I feel like as a YouTuber, all the crazy things that you fear as a YouTuber has happened to me. And so I think the very first thing is you have to be resilient. You have to keep posting and doing these best practices, even when you see all the analytics pointing downwards, even when you feel like giving up. it's you really have to be resilient. And that's why a lot of people don't see success, because they can't handle months of just being on a downward trend. So yeah, and then I think the other thing is consistency, and also just having their own, evolving into their own style, because uh they're the bigger creators that are doing really well and continue to grow, they just develop their own style, and people continue to come back to your channel because of that. And really, the when I say style, I'm talking about personality. I'm talking about, yes, the effects that are on your what your editors do behind the scenes, but really it's just, to me, those things just like keep going. Like, even if you have to take a break for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, get back up and keep going. But yeah, the consistency is a huge part. Resiliency is what I find, like, how the creators win, and just keep on growing.
Right. So you talk about like being able to ignore the analytics. What do you mean by that? Like the analytics could be pointing that we're going in the wrong direction, but in reality, it's just a matter of time before it starts catching up. Or
Yeah, so the the analytics are, whew, that will be a huge, what's the word? That'll screw with your mind like crazy, right? Because you'll put your heart and soul into a movie. Yeah, a movie. Basically, you feel like it's a movie after it's all said and done. You put your heart and soul into it. You script, and it has a good hook. It's great information, and then you post it, and then it receives a 10 out of 10 on your YouTube studio. You're like, and then you have the negative self-talk. You're like, I'm the worst creator in the world. I'm like, why am I even doing this? I thought I knew the algorithm, but I don't know anything. And then there's the extreme opposite, where you post a video and it just goes crazy. It's number one. YouTube shows you celebratory confetti when it has number one out of the last 10 videos. And you're like, yes, like, I'm amazing. Now my ad revenue is going up. Now views are going up. Everything's going up. And it's just like a digital dopamine hit, literally is. And so, I forgot the original question, but the point is the analytics can really like screw with you, and they're addicting to look at, because you're like, what is, you see a video you posted 2 days ago, you're like, where's it at now? How many comments does it have? The retention, like, how did my retention do in the intro, the first 60 seconds? So the analytics can get crazy, and you really have to be mindful of, having the app on your phone and not checking it all the time, and knowing that you're an amazing creator no matter what the analytics say. So
sometimes analytics do kind of mess with me because we'll post a YouTube short, and with shorts, I expect fast results, and then I'll be looking at the stats from the next 5 days, and I'll be showing zero or very little traction. And then, once I get upset, I check a few days later and I see a spike. All of a sudden, this short got 2,000 views, which for me is actually a lot for my channel. Most of them get a few hundred views. So like there's this delayed effect as well. It's like it takes a while before the algorithm starts pushing it or something.
yeah, no, that's a really beautiful thing when that happens, because you never know when your video is going to go viral. It could be a month from after you post, it could be 6 months. And the great part is, now if you're doing split testing, like on your titles, your thumbnails, the video can literally just come alive out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, but because you changed out the thumbnail. So that's the beauty of it, is even if it only gains 10 views a month or whatever, like, literally out of nowhere one day it could start to get 1,000 extra views a month for your channel, and grow exponentially from there.